everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jennifer, I'm the owner of Auburn Yoga and Pilates. Tonight we are going to be doing a yin and restorative practice. I hope that you'll join me. If you have any blocks or pillows or a blanket or a belt, please be sure to grab them because we will definitely be using them. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we'll start in a comfortable seated position. You want to lift your spine, lengthen your spine. Relax your shoulders down away from your ears and relax your knees away from the ceiling, moving them toward the floor. If it's uncomfortable for you to simply sit like this, you can always try putting pillows under your knees. You can try lifting your hips a little higher. Anything that'll make yourself more comfortable. And then inhaling through your nose, all the air you can fit. Exhaling slowly out your mouth. And again, inhaling through your nose, all the air you can fit. Exhaling slowly out your mouth. And one more time, inhaling through your nose, all the air you can fit. And ever so slowly letting it go out your mouth. Now, if you can, try to replicate that breath. But if you're able to, keep it a completely nostril breath. So in through the nose, out through the nose. So bring yourself into the present moment. Pay attention to your breath. What places is your breath filling on your inhale? And what places are emptying on your exhales? And then trying to bring your attention to something that you are grateful for. It could be a person, or it could be a thing. Maybe you're grateful for a special friend or loved one. Maybe you're grateful for your Keurig that gives you a nice hot cup of coffee every morning. But trying to put yourself in that place where you're experiencing that thing which you are grateful for, or that person that you are grateful for. So you can think about spending time with that person, focusing on a memory that is rather special to you. Or there's nothing wrong with focusing on being grateful for that steaming hot cup of coffee, or that favorite meal that you really do enjoy. Whatever it is, try to just close your eyes and really try to soak up that feeling of gratitude. If you've put yourself in that moment, hopefully you're feeling a little more joyous, a little more uplifted. Just by really focusing on experiencing who or what you are grateful for at this moment. We're going to stay here for 2 minutes, trying to really imprint this feeling on ourselves. And deepening your breath, beginning to bring yourself back into the room, switching the cross of your legs, and beginning to circle your spine. So hopefully when your mind gets a little cluttered and you feel maybe far away from feelings of gratitude, hopefully you can bring those thoughts, you can return those thoughts to that place where we just were. Hopefully helping to spin things a little more positively if your thoughts try to travel in a different direction at some point. Reverse direction. And last one, holding it nice and tall. Coming into our first pose, we're going to come into caterpillar. So you can grab a pillow, you can grab a folded blanket or folded blankets. You could grab blocks. You're going to take your legs long, and if it's difficult for you to stay in this position, again, find a pillow or a folded blanket to sit on. Now, some people will take blocks or something sturdy like a block, and they will place it between their legs so that their legs can still stay hip distance apart, and then they'll fold forward here. For other people, they will take a pillow, or oftentimes pillows. Of course, you could stack different pillows on top of each other. A firmer bed pillow would work well here. And then fold forward over your pillows. Or there's sort of a combination. If you have a, firm enough pillow and something to stack it on, sometimes people will do this, or if they have a blanket they want to put on top, and fold forward. So really it's all about finding the pose that really works best for you. So I'll fold forward, but I'm going to keep my head slightly elevated so that I can keep talking for a little while and I'm not talking into the pillow. Hopefully in this one you find a back body opening. So that is, hopefully you feel a stretch in the back of your torso and also in the back of your legs. Now, you want the stretch to be deep, but you don't want it to be overwhelming. So, of course, if you go into a position that it just really feels like it hurts, then you want to come out of it, or at least come out of it a little. Maybe bring it to a place where it isn't feeling quite as intense. So these yin poses, they do have an edge to them. The fairly long holds do allow us to go much deeper than we normally would in a non-yin yoga class. Because again, generally we hold these poses for 3 to 5 minutes. Well, yin is about stillness. There is still some degree of movement within the poses. Because oftentimes, the gift of time, that time that we're spending in these poses, gives you opportunities that you wouldn't have if you didn't have that time. That opportunity to really release and relax. That opportunity to really tune into your breath and let your breath help ease you more deeply into the pose. So if someone was casually observing you, they may state that you looked rather still in the pose, but maybe you know that you were constantly making micro movements. You were constantly exhaling, you were constantly releasing, you were constantly reaching just a little bit further. And then slowly, ever so slowly and gently, lifting yourself up out of that pose. And then taking that bolster over to the side, coming into a seated butterfly pose. So it is likely that you're going to want to have something sort of sturdy to prop you up. If you have a really big book, that would work, or a fairly sturdy box, that would also work. But taking those blocks and depending on your level of flexibility is how you're going to place the blocks. You can place them fairly high, or of course you can make a whole variety of heights here. And then folding forward, into a butterfly pose. So practicing in yoga has several benefits, some which are unique to a practice like yin, and some that are general to yoga, in general. For instance, increased flexibility happens to be one of the benefits. Generally, increased flexibility is often associated as a benefit with most varieties of yoga. But hopefully you can see how it is especially relevant in yin yoga, as again, you are able to go more deeply into a pose. Hopefully in this one, you're feeling a stretch through the back of your torso, through your hips and outer thighs, and through your inner thighs. Now, of course, not everybody feels stretches in those places. It depends on your specific makeup, but those are the common areas here. And then ever so slowly coming up out of this pose. And then now that we've done 2 poses for the back body, we'll do one for the front body. So coming into a Sphinx pose. So some people, if you're on a hard surface, you may want to place a blanket beneath you. Many of you will be fine. Just coming in to a prone position. Now, it may be that you're feeling especially tight tonight and that you want to just hang out here in a crocodile pose, a nice spine stretch. If you feel comfortable, you're going to come up to Sphinx. If you're not quite ready for Sphinx, you can pin your elbows behind your shoulders and come up into a little baby cobra pose. But if you're comfortable, taking those elbows directly under your shoulders or maybe just slightly ahead of your shoulders, your thigh bones are parallel to each other, your toes are pointing straight back behind you. Now, this is the more common version of the pose. However, some of you who have a lot more flexibility in your spine may feel like you'd enjoy coming up into a cobra pose. And this cobra pose is also customizable. You can keep your hands fairly forward, which is a lot easier than drawing your hands closer to your hips. So find that place that works for you. So another one of the benefits of a yin practice is stress relief. And especially at the time that we are recording this video, many people are in a position where they are feeling at least some degree of stress. This opportunity to be in the moment. You're in the moment, you're focusing on what is going on in your pose. It gives your mind a rest. It gives your mind space. And it's oftentimes when we do this, when we give our minds that time and that space, that we come to solutions that we would have never thought of if we hadn't given that space and time. If things are hurried, if things are too cluttered or too busy, there's often not the ability for new thoughts and ideas to germinate. Now, as far as what's going on physically in this pose is obviously you are in some degree of a back bend. Hopefully you're feeling like you're able to press your heart center forward and pull the heads of your shoulders back slightly. You want to try to lengthen your front body. So notice how that area from your pubic bone all the way up through your collarbone is lengthened. And then dropping down, resting your head on your forearms, and really lengthening that spine. And then taking those hands beside you and lifting yourself up into an all-fours position. If you'd like, you can transition into just a couple cat and cows. Pulling your abdominals up towards your spine. And then holding a neutral spine. And then you've got some options in this next one. So I'm going to admit that this next pose is not generally a pose that I thoroughly enjoy. I usually end up choosing some variation of it, but I know from doing it at the studio that some people find it absolutely delightful. So because of that, we'll give you the options. So if you take a blanket or a towel and you fold it into a high but narrow strip, mine is kind of a hot mess. I think I failed folding today. So, try one more time. Okay. Something along those lines. And then you want to place this between your ankles. Let me turn this way just so that you can see. Here, so that your heels are right on the sides of your hips, your big toes point straight back. Now, some people don't actually even need anything to sit on. Some people, it's not enough, and they're going to need to do something to come up a little bit more. You don't want anything that feels painful to your knees. But this is one of those poses that does have a tremendous amount of benefits. Now, of course, it's stretching the front of your ankles, but that isn't the biggest benefit. Here, it is actually, they say that you get benefits to your connective tissue, that connective tissue that's around your knees, around your ankles, around your hips, that this flexion, given that you have no existing knee or ankle issues, is very good. And again, this same flexion and this, really deep pose that we go into is also supposed to have some benefits to circulation. Now, I generally stay here, or if I do go into the reclined option, I usually change my bottom half, because a reclined, this is Virasana, this pose here, is not, again, one of my ultimately favorite poses. But I know some people who could, stay here for a very, very long length of time. Now, I've got the modified version. I've got a ramp set up behind me. So you could try it if you wanted with a ramp behind you. Some people can go almost flat to the floor. I'm not going to stay here too long, but I'll show you what I mean. Keeping your thigh bones parallel to each other, people come in to a somewhat supine position. So if you're comfortable here, stay here. If that is not the pose for you, you can either stay in Virasana, forget about the reclining portion, or set up your ramp, lengthen your legs, and come into that reclined position. Now, if you opt to come here, technically, you probably are missing out on some of those benefits that are unique to that last pose that deal with benefits to circulation and benefits to connective tissue. However, this is a wonderful pose that has benefits of its own. It's very, very relaxing. It's a very restorative pose. So if you decide to come into that position, chances are your stress and anxiety levels will noticeably be different. This pose also has a wonderful benefit of opening the front body. The heads of your shoulders fall back toward the floor, and hopefully you feel like you are better able to take a full, deep breath. Really filling up that front body with air. Our front bodies tend to get fairly short and fairly tight because we unconsciously are allowing our shoulders to round forward. and then slowly coming up out of whatever pose that you chose there. And flipping around again. You may end up needing blocks or books for these next couple poses. First one we're going to try is a hamstring stretch. So sometimes people have very tight hamstrings and it's difficult for them to place their hands on the floor. You're going to step your right leg forward and then creep your right foot forward, pull those right toes back towards your shoulders. So this is one that you can rest your hands on the floor, you can rest your hands on blocks and come a little bit more upright if you're tight. Really about finding that place that works for you. But keep drawing that pinky toe back toward that belly button. While you're here, lengthening your spine and relaxing into the fold, really trying to get a fairly significant stretch through your hamstring. So oftentimes, people will cite their hamstring as one of the tighter parts of their body. Here, lengthening the hamstring, and hopefully getting length in the spine. Another back body stretch, most definitely. And then coming up, and switching sides, so sliding that front leg back, taking that other leg forward, and then creeping that foot forward, flexing that foot and coming into that hamstring stretch. Inhaling, lengthen, exhaling, folding. Walking your hands forward will increase the intensity of the stretch. Keeping your wrists under your shoulders will make it a little more manageable. And then slowly coming up out of this side, stepping that leg back. Now, you're free to do the same thing that we just did again. If the next pose seems a little bit too adventurous for you. But stepping that right leg forward, coming into that hamstring stretch. Now, you may be perfectly comfortable staying here, or if you have, again, blocks or, big books would work here. Probably blocks of wood if you put something softer over them. But coming into maybe some form of Hanumanasana, which is your yoga split. So you may find that you are not comfortable in this at all, even with quite a bit of height. Or you may find, if you've been working on, hamstring and hip flexor stretches, that you're able to go a little deeper than you thought. What I can tell you from personal experience is you don't want to push yourself into a place that doesn't feel comfortable just because you think it would be cool to go into that place. Honor the messages from your body. It will tell you when you've had enough and when you need to pull back. It will also tell you if it is safe for you to go a little deeper. I strongly encourage you to really take micro movements toward going deeper. Really, see if going any lower at all is an appropriate place for you. And we're not staying here quite as long as we're staying in the other poses. We'll stay here for about a total of 2 minutes. We've been here over a minute, so not too much longer. The front toes point forward, the back toes point to the back of the room. And then sliding that leg in and stepping that other leg forward. So modified, you're going to go back into that hamstring stretch that we were in earlier, pulling the toes back toward the knee. This is a deep enough stretch for many people. If, and only if, you're feeling comfortable, then feel free to come into some form of Hanumanasana. I have positioned myself in a position where I cannot see my timer. And timers are very significant in yin and restorative yoga, especially when you're in Hanumanasana. So pardon me as I grab the timer so that we don't spend too long in here. I know you're enjoying it so much. So you should probably feel a fairly significant hamstring stretch in that front leg. Again, don't feel like you have to overdo. It also gives a significant hip flexor stretch through the back leg, so you're getting that opening through the front of the hip. And then again, ever so slowly, sliding that foot back, coming into an all fours position and shaking it out. Okay, so we've been going about 45 minutes already, so we will come supine. So coming down and placing those feet flat to the mat, knees pointing upward, and just settling in here. Taking that right leg, crossing it over your left, lift those hips, swing those hips to the right, let those legs fall to the left, take those arms out to the side for a spinal twist. If you can, look away from your legs so that you're looking opposite your legs and really trying to ground that right shoulder down to your mat. And bringing it up to center. Uncrossing those legs, placing those hips back in the center, and aligning the long end of your mat with your spine. Taking that left leg, crossing it over, lifting those hips, swinging those hips to the left, oops, and letting those legs drop over to the right. Your arms can be in goalposts, or your arms can be straight out to the sides. So you're benefiting your back, obviously getting a twist, so increasing flexibility through those muscles in your back. Also opening up the front of the chest because you've got those palms facing upward, those shoulders are in external rotation, and your shoulders stay anchored as your legs go out to the side. Also going back to one of the benefits of yin yoga being circulation benefits, the yogis believe that twists help stimulate circulation in your internal organs, which is always a plus. And bringing it up to center, uncrossing those legs, bringing those hips back to center, and bringing yourself into a place for final relaxation. So sometimes people like to cover themselves with a blanket just for warmth. Sometimes people like to place a rolled blanket under their knees. If your back is tight, that may be something that you want to try. Unless there's a reason not to, your palms are upward facing and your chest is open. Try to really allow yourself to relax. We all hold on to too much tension, too much tightness, too much stress, too much anxiety. Try to use your yoga breath to at least symbolically try to get rid of some of that. Continue to take those deep inhales and those deep exhales. And not only allow it to relax that physical body, but also allow that breath to almost symbolically exhale away any tension or tightness that you don't need to hang on to. skeptical of this idea, try it. What do you have to lose? Try imagining or visualizing that some of those worries get carried away on your next exhale. And in traveling away, they dissipate and continue to become more and more dispersed. And further away from you. And then deepening your breath, beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bending your legs, planting your feet, eventually rolling to one side. Feel free to pause here or lift yourself up into a seated position. And maybe coming into a couple of seated cat and cows. Lengthening and flexing your spine. On the next inhale, hold that long spine, take those arms up, bring those hands to heart center. The light within me salutes the light within you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me tonight. Or if you watched this on replay, I hope that you enjoyed it. Stay well and hopefully see you all soon at the studio. Take care.